Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the early morning effort on a Monday morning to get here to a meeting. I was thinking this as we came down here. How do all of us look in the summertime? Because we're always down here in the wintertime, and now that we've been out in the sun some, and everybody looks great. But if I can, I'm very proud to sit before all these visitors in the room and start discussing literacy, as we've got a joint meeting we're kicking off here of the two education committees for the Senate and the House. And members, all of y'all, thank you for your efforts and getting down here to us this morning. Hopefully you've got your coffee. If you don't, members, we got you a little coffee and a biscuit, I believe, in 514. So if we take a break and you want to run down there, you're welcome to do that. As I like to do often in our meetings here, I know we've got educators in the room, and as I like to say, daily heroes for our students and our parents and our state. Those educators, if you've been an educator or currently are an educator, hold your hand up. Look at that. Let's recognize those people. Thank you for your service and what you do, and thinking of those children and this state like you do, educators. With that, let me turn it over to the chairman of the Senate Education Committee, Chairman Hickman, and get a statement from you.
You got it. Well, thank y'all for being here. First of all, we're going to ask Senator Payne to open it with a prayer.
Are you number 8, Senator Payne? Let me get number 8 if I can. There we go.
If y'all would bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, and we just thank you first and foremost for just a wonderful day, just for the breath of life that filled each of our lungs this morning. We know that that breath of life is only a gift of you, and it comes with purpose. Lord, we just ask you to lead us and guide us in our purposes in this meeting today and all things that we do here at the Capitol on behalf of 11 million Georgians. Lord, just ask you to lead us and guide us. For us in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank y'all for attending. With the construction going on in special session, Chairman Irwin and I did the best we could. So 8 o'clock is not ideal, but with everything else going on and not really knowing what time session's going in, we decided last week we need to set a time and go with it. So we did the best we could for the time and location, and this works out great. And thank the senators and House members for being here. We all understand how critical this issue is, and we've got to step forward. And Leb 93 is just so powerful. And Leb 93, I refer to as the big, beautiful literacy bill. And I think that as we implement that, we'll all find out it is that. When I look at this bill, I think a couple of key words for a look at it, and that's collaboration of all agencies together. And then also what I like to refer to as working together works. When we all work together, we accomplish things. And what we got to work together for is the best of our students in Georgia. It may not be best for the taxpayers, but we need to do what's best for the students, and we can get there. And as we all know, in every good bill, there probably are some changes, some amendments, some things that may need to be made. And as this bill gets more and more implemented and all, we may look at some things that we may need to make some amendments to or some things. So just kind of keep that in mind. And as we go through this, you'll see there's some critical dates of implementation of this bill. And it really, one of the critical dates actually starts August the 1st, September 1st. Those type of dates. And so Chairman Irwin's got a timeline here that he'll share with us in a few minutes that Michael Walker's created for us on those implementation dates. So let me just give you some highlights of the bill, and you all know this, but Leb 93 provides for school-based and regional literacy coaches. It requires a unified literacy plan for all public schools, provides placement and promotion policies for students in first grade, requires state approval and funding for high-quality instruction material and screeners, provides for enhanced education preparation and professional learning programs, creates a Georgia Literacy Task Force, which will be the the group that determines the high quality instructional materials and the screeners, and the Georgia Literacy Coordinating Committee. So thank y'all. We look forward to the presentations. Chairman Irwin, turn it back over to you. Thank y'all for being here.
Great, thank you, Chairman. Let me add to that too that I'll state it again and have many times before. Members, I think this is the most impactful legislation we've taken up since the Hope Scholarship for the state of Georgia. I want you to envision again a classroom full of third graders that all can read on grade level, and how that changes that classroom, the rate of the learning, the ability of the learning that takes place, because we know that reading is foundational to all learning. So I'm very excited to see the kickoff that we've already got, members, and the things that are taking place in the short period of time since we've been in session. So I'm looking forward to getting an update, and then also paying attention to where we possibly could help when we come back into session in a short 6 months from now. So know that we have a window of time too, that we knew that when we were setting these dates for implementation was very tight, and our window is very tight, as school is going to start up here in the state of Georgia in August for most school systems, as you're aware. So with that, what we're going to ask in the audience, we have asked members of the different agencies to come and talk about what they're doing to implement House Bill 1193, and then allow members to have some questions and discussion. As we call you up to present, remember we're trying to hold you to about 15 minutes here, and then allow some questions after that. And then, of course, I think everybody in here, be ready for follow-up from us, too. We're looking forward to developing some information that we can distribute to General Assembly members so that they understand what's going on in this timeline by which we are working now. Let me see, I believe Fran Dundor, the director of GOES, now, and why don't you begin with talking about GOES and your new name, Ms. Dundor, for your agency there, and then begin into the implementation that you are doing. And I see Stacy Lutz is with you, so welcome, Stacy. Thank you for coming and your efforts. And let me get your microphone on its table. There we go. So the microphone's yours, Ms. Dundor.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Chairman and committee members, for allowing us to come before you this morning. I will update you on how GOSA has become GOES, and I will also update you on a couple of the ways I'm trying to make that a thing, like here we goes, anything goes. That's just how it goes. But we changed from the Governor's Office of Student Achievement under House Bill 1302 to the Governor's Office of Education and Workforce Strategy. And the idea with that legislation, as you may remember, was to really unify we say the cradle to career, and really provide unification and articulation for the workforce and education, so that we create on-ramps for all Georgians to be in school or in industry. And so that is how we became GOES, and July 1 we will have a kickoff of our new website and agency name. And we did provide a PowerPoint for you.
Okay, we got media services, I believe, if we can get that pulled up. Members, just give us a moment there. Yes.
Just check if we'll get a copy of all the PowerPoints and stuff.
You'll get a copy?
Yeah,
yes,
electronic copy.
We
Okay.
will. We'll
Thanks.
provide that
All right.
for you.
Well, we'll just start by talking you through it, and we can just advance through this opening slide, but this is just, oh, perfect. Thank you.
Look at our technology ability.
This is fantastic. We'll start here with just a reminder of what has led to this place, and also the reminder that, as in many states, what we're watching happening around us is Mississippi's calling it a marathon, not a miracle. It is the time that it takes to get this work done. And so just taking you back to 2019 with Senate Bill 48, which really began the conversation about dyslexia in Georgia, which opened the door for a wider conversation about literacy. And I won't belabor talking you through all of those, but pushing to 2023 for Georgia's Early Literacy Act and moving that work. This really, I think, just shows you the progression of how this work has continued to be fine-tuned over the course of these legislations. It's impressive to look at, to watch how it has built. And this is work you have done and work you have passed and provided for us to implement. When we get to 26 and House Bill 1193 that you just passed and the governor just signed, I believe, May the 5th, there is quite a bit for us to talk about in this legislation and to share with you how we have begun the implementation thus far. To echo and just highlight what Chairman Hickman said, there were many key provisions in this legislation. Literacy coaches in every school, K-3. That is a generous and courageous offering for the state of Georgia. It really is. As a former coach and English teacher, it is an impressive thing that you have done, and I couldn't be more proud to support it. Unified literacy plans for every school district, not just districts who have sought out the focus through grant work, as many of our L4GA districts did in Georgia, but districts will now be required to make this a focus and a priority within their districts. A coaching endorsement. Georgia now has standards which will be approved for coaches in Georgia to say that these are the duties, behaviors, expectations, uniform for our coaches. A first grade readiness opportunity, that you will not move past kindergarten and into the first grade until you are ready to do that. Our task force, our coordinating committees, which are our steering and guiding forces, a state literacy director, and then a promotional campaign, which will include everyone. But that also brings in collaborative partners, and I heard both of our chairmen mention the importance of collaboration, and I think you'll probably hear a lot of us talk today about collaboration and the importance of it. It was our charge from the beginning. All of these entities come together in this work, and really Stacy will talk a little bit more about how those entities have already been working together in this work. And our literacy coaching committee, once it is seated, will then be represented, we'll have representation from each of these bodies to begin to guide this work, and we'll have oversight over the work going forward. I'll let you start here, Ms. Lutz.
So in anticipation of some of the work that came out of 1193, we had already begun, and so what you'll see on this slide is some preliminary work that happened prior to signing of the legislation, but also thinking about the slide that Dr. Dundor talked about previously with the idea of collaborative partners and this idea of multi-agency coordination of events, of work. And so one of the things that is critical to this is from House Bill 307, the work had begun, and 1193 really refined that work. And so as we think about the things that needed to happen in order to have things in place for 1193's implementation, we have to start a little bit previous to that May 5th signing date. And so if you think back, we had already engaged, based on House Bill 307, the Literacy Coach Coordinating Committee. And that Literacy Coach Coordinating Committee consisted of representation from the Department of Education, from our RESA groups, from research institutions, from university system partners, and that work really was meant to move the three coaching systems that were currently in place when House Bill 307 was engaged into this new work that would establish a structure for a consistent, unified literacy coaching model, which supports the key provision of 1193, which is the installation of coaches in every school. And so as you think back to the things that needed to happen in order to have this implementation, around November and January, you'll see that we engaged and initiated a collaborative that would establish those standards that would become the basis for the endorsement that PSC has now graciously picked up. And I know those partners are going to talk more specifically later in the day about that key work. But those standards were critically important so that we would have that basis for consistency across the state. So as we move toward having a consistent structure and modeling process for literacy coaches, we wanted to have a clear expectation of what that work was. And so that work was done in coordination with, again, multi-agency work. With GOES as kind of the guiding force, we engaged the Deal Center to help facilitate that work. We engaged our university system partners who currently have things like a coaching endorsement. Not a coaching endorsement, a coaching degree. So Georgia State is a good example. They have a master's degree that offers a degree in literacy coaching. So certainly we wanted that voice at the table. We engaged other university partners like Georgia Southern to come in and work in that process to really establish those standards. And again, in coordination with our RESAs, we had representation from then at the coaching systems that were in place. All three of those systems, the CSI structured literacy coaches from the Department of Education, the Let's Read Georgia coaches from our RESA system, and the Growing Readers coaches, also based in our RESAs. So that group came together and worked to establish a set of standards that then we offered to PSC to form the basis to establish a task force, which then now PSC has picked up and is now running that work to get to that endorsement that's required in legislation by December 31st of this year. And again, I think Dr. Barry will echo that work is on track to be in place by December 31st. And then as we move on into the January to April, in April, our leadership met with the executive directors of the RESA to give an update on the legislative, what we knew based on passage of 1193, pre-signage, but getting ready to move into anticipating that signing on May 5th, engaged the RESA directors to talk about next steps. One of the things we asked for at that point from them was for 4 representatives to begin to sit and offer advisory work toward what would be the content of the rollout of our statewide coaching model. And again, I say content because that's a significant difference between the structure that we're working toward getting in place so that our communication system is clear. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. There's another group that that our executive committee for the Council on Literacy had put in place, and that was a pilot for leadership development. And so as we think about the installation of literacy coaches in every school, there are 2 key components of that support. One is a regional coach housed at RESAs, and another is the literacy leadership coach that's also housed at RESAs. One of the things that we've learned from other states and one of the things that we've learned from watching implementations of systems like these is this. We can have a coach in every school, but if our leadership in the school doesn't understand how to support that implementation, those coaches can't really be successful. And so in foresight of what was coming here, our Literacy Council suggested a pilot that would include 4 RESAs in order to establish what would be the model for a literacy leadership cohort. And so we know based on 1193 that each RESA is required to name a minimum of 1 literacy leadership coach who will work with each district to install that unified literacy plan. And that unified literacy plan will guide the support that our RESAs get and that our school systems get for the implementation of our school-based literacy coaching. And I'm going to take a breath and let you, I see you might have some questions there, so let me open for some questions.
There is a lot out in front of you, and if you guys take a look, and Stacy said a lot in just getting you from November to April, but I will let you just look at the timeline.
I think what we're seeing with this committee members is that we're just not taking for granted certain things going to happen. It's an accountability issue,
yes, sir.
And it's a follow-up issue and stay on top issue because we can't let what's going on right now continue. So that's what Stacy, a lot of what you're talking about,
That's
accountability.
It
Well,
is.
and the piece of it too that I think is important is to see that there are so many moving pieces. There are so many components to standing up something with structures statewide that it is going to take an incredible amount of effort, and there is plenty of work for everyone. But just taking you through, and we won't belabor this slide, but getting you through our May 6th. So the bill was signed May the 5th. The first thing that we began to do at that point was reach out to our partners at the State Board and the DOE, who are charged with really determining the duties and responsibilities of these coaches. And is that 5 minutes time? Is that my time?
No, I
I'm
think
good.
you're just waving there, Amanda.
Okay, just making sure. And so we reached out on as early as May the 6th. We reached out to the DOE because the first thing we knew we were going to need was those duties and responsibilities, those job descriptions. And we knew that in May, if you've been in a school system, you know what's happening in a school system. They are getting ready to finish the year. And then everyone who stays behind is going to get ready to start the year. And so those leaders and these coaches were going to be chomping at the bit, so to speak, for some information. And so we began strategy sessions with the DOE team for implementation on May the 6th. Those have been going on weekly, and those have really been about getting structures in place. We've also posted the position for state literacy director that has gone nationwide. And so we are hoping to get some real traction off of that position. And I'm going to just push through. You will have a copy of this.
Key last piece on this slide is the date that we plan to bring all of our coaches together, both regional and leadership coaches, to the initial training for the structures that will roll out. And that's going to happen July 22nd and 23rd in a full meeting that DOE is going to house and sponsor for us. We're going to bring all of our RESA-based coaches together, again, both regional literacy coaches and regional literacy leadership coaches, affectionately RLCs and RLLCs, because we love an acronym. We're going to bring them together and get ready to roll out a structure. And that structure you will also see in the PowerPoint, and we can talk through the plans for that if you want to talk about the structure or if you just want to go to questions.
Let us ask one question, because I only
Sure.
see one up at the time.
Absolutely.
If that's okay, and then we'll, Stacy, run to that. Is that you, Rick? All right.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for you. Have y'all talked about what to do with that school systems, that kind of slow going, they send the representative, get taught, the trainer kind of model, and then all of a sudden they take it back to the system and they may not be excited about it, the super may not be excited, or even the elementary principal may not be excited. What do we do in that case?
We are having those conversations. I will tell you, we kicked off a series of webinars with our superintendents, with our RESA directors, with our school leaders and curriculum directors to begin to do a Q&A and to find out what those questions are and what situations they're in, because they're in a lot of unique situations. And I will tell you, we're still working through some of the minutia of how we can support, because we have 118 regional coaches,
funded positions.
100 funded positions. And so what we've got to determine is, with legislative guidance and intent, is how do we support these school-based literacy coaches with this regional team without diluting that regional team by making them school-based coaches. So those are some of the
Any
things we've got to
accountability
solve.
for the slow-going systems yet?
I'll let
That's
Stacey
in
answer that
place?
question. Yeah.
So one of the key pieces of that is, number one, the unified literacy plan that each district was going to participate in the implementation of, in coordination with our RESA-based literacy leadership coaches. And so really the driving plan for a system is going to be collaboratively developed with both leadership from the district and this literacy leadership coach. So where there is full capacity and demonstrated success in student performance, those districts can have a lighter touch. But whereas you're referring to, there might be districts who have structures or some structures in place but aren't really making the progress, then we would give more intensive dosage and support to those districts based on that plan that's established with the literacy coach, leadership coach, and the district.
Now,
So
if you're-
they'd have to let you in, so passive resistance
They have to
won't work.
let us
Yeah.
in. It is indeed. And that's, we've talked a lot about managing adult behavior. That's going to be the most fun.
Right.
We're all excited about that, but it's growing pains, right? And this is an aggressive change. Putting a coach in every school is an aggressive change. And we are having conversations with superintendents who are resistant to step their foot in this stream just yet. They are nervous about how aggressive this change is and what it means for them, because it does mean, if you will, being voluntold on some level how things are going to run in their buildings.
Yeah.
And that I was a school leader. I know how I feel about being voluntold things in my own buildings. And so that's going to be a challenge for all of us to support this work. The Unified Literacy Plan is also non-waivable. That is something that you also did for us legislators, is you didn't allow systems to waive this. And so by not waiving it, having that coach, and that coach is integral in building that unified plan, that at some point they're going to have to, we hope, pick up the work and just move forward with it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, I say part one to this, and we'll move forward this pretty quickly, guys. This is just.
Fran, let us.
Yes, sir, of course.
Chairman
Yeah.
Hickman.
I just want to mention one thing.
Yes,
just
sir.
to make sure. I want to remind everybody in here, and committee members especially, that we put over $70 million in the budget, the House and Senate did, for these literacy coaches. And it's in the budget. It was passed through appropriation. The governor signed the bill. So we got to look at that. The money is there for all these coaches to be hired.
That's right. Yes, sir. And they're hiring them, and they're going to come to work. And so we felt very compelled to tell them what to do when they get there.
Yeah.
And so again, this is part one. I want to be very clear. We do not yet have a coaching model that we can say is Georgia's model, the way other states do. We have the beginnings of fleshing out the duties and responsibilities for these coaches when school starts back. And we have a collaborative list of partners who are going to help us build out what this looks like going forward. But we are by no means at a point where we would say this is a finished product, right? But we do have school starting, and kids are going to show up. So duties and responsibilities, we parsed this out of 1193. And this just is what I call the guide that helps us stay street legal. It is by no means representative of every duty or responsibility or every partner. But again, I'm reporting to you on a very short runway with a very tight timeline for having duties and responsibilities in place by July 1. So we began to look at who needs to know what and began to do what immediately. As you can take a look at this, we all have plenty to do. But what we decided and what we are doing is we are providing a system of support currently to build out and train these school-based coaches. And I'm going to talk you through this chart. This is not an org chart that shows any hierarchy. It is a chart to show you how, when August comes around and school starts back, we will be providing training and support for these teammates. Okay, so we have currently in my office and in our DOE staff some paired partnerships. We will have both state literacy directors. We will have both literacy coach coordinators. And so we are deciding to use those resources that are funded with taxpayers' dollars to build this out. But if you start at the top with school-based literacy coaches who are going to be hired right now, who are working, coaching, and collaborating with our teachers, they are supported and aligned and accountable to their principals. Our principals are going to be working with their district literacy contacts and those regional literacy leadership coaches who are supported out of my office by Stacy and by this coordinating committee who is going to be seated with membership from each of those collaborative partners. They will have oversight of a lot of this work. Those regional coaches are also going to be, the literacy coaches that are working with leaders also have counterparts who are going to be working with the school-based coaches. They are also going to be supported with and working with our Godot teammates, as well as Stacy's position as Georgia Literacy Coach Coordinator. And then both of those supported out of our Godot partnership and our GOES team. I want to be clear here, though. You were very careful in the way that you set this up in statute. Stacy's position and the coordinating position out of this office is responsible for evaluation of all three of these tiered systems and evaluation overall of this process as a whole as it sits in legislation, unless I misunderstand it. And so while there are counterparts, there's also accountability within these roles, and not just, we are locking arms and moving forward, but we're locking arms knee to knee, saying no to each other as well. And so while it's collaborative, there's got to be checks and balances, as you well know, and that's how these are established on some level. The last thing I'll show you here is an intensive slide, but it is part of what, and all of this has been seen in our webinar series. We've explained all of this to our school leaders, our district leaders, and our RESA teams as well. But just so that this is the approach we are taking, this is the structure we are using to start to apply training. And that will be how they will be supported, when they will be supported, and at what levels they will be supported. The content for that is being built out, and again, will be built out, as you heard Stacy say, based on all of those partnerships that we have together, including our university partners who are going to be working on this professional learning. What questions do you have for us at this point?
Hold on a second. We have a question or two for you. Let me make a statement. Thank you for the effort.
Yes, sir.
Good job, ladies.
you.
And members, I hope you see and know, and if you haven't been involved in trying to teach a young person to read, it's a very complicated mission that you have. So in other words, what our teachers do to teaching our children to read is very difficult. And so if you notice the process on trying to ensure that that takes place so that everybody's on grade level has to be complicated. And we have to involve many different agencies to make that happen under our current system. And I'm seeing a good alignment right now and a good kickoff to that, to the change that we need here. So Dr. Dundor, thank you for that. I'm going to open up with a question or two, knowing that we've got a hard stop because there's another meeting in here at 10 o'clock. And we got 5 other groups that we need to present to you, members. So I'm going to move quickly through these questions. Number 27, is that? There you go. Vice Chair.
Hi, thank you so very much. I mean, you've definitely hit the ground running. This is something I know that you both have been working on for long before the bill came, and then when the bill came, I just really appreciate your work. A couple of quick questions, just technical. On the timeline coaching model, I very much appreciate you saying we're going to do this right, we're going to do it thoroughly, we're not rushing to just throw something out there. Do you have a timeline on when you expect the goal for that to be completed?
We do. Well, we'd like to see that completed within the year, and we know that there are going to be multiple partners who are currently working on it. There are going to be our RESA teams. We'll have 4 teammates who are going to come in and help support what this looks like. Remember that we had 3 models, if you will, that we were using to approach coaching in Georgia before this was unified. The structure that you see here does look more like what you would call the CSI model. It really is a structure of engagement. In terms of a philosophy of coaching and what we do when those boots hit the ground, we're relying heavily on those duties and responsibilities because they really legislatively paint a picture of what this work looks like. And then those standards, we're going to have to utilize those standards as well. And so within these next 6 months, and we will have, in 3 months, we'll stop and check ourselves against the standards. In 3 months again, we'll stop and check ourselves against the standards. But those really are the guiding force because that's what the PSC will adopt and say coaching looks like in our state.
Okay, thank you very much. And one follow-up question, if I may.
You bet.
So the training, I just wanted confirmation. Is this with the literacy coach? When we talk about our revised promotion, retention, and the first grade readiness assessment, does that fall under the literacy coach, or is this classroom?
That falls under classroom and administrative
Okay, thank you.
leadership. Yes, ma'am.
Great questions there. Let me ask a question and then maybe make a statement too. And I know we like to use letters for everything, but where is your frequently asked questions, your FAQs? I want us to prepare for these members so when they're addressed by constituents in the stores or in the grocery store, they're able to answer because they've been able to read the frequently asked questions that you're being hit with. Do you have maybe the top 1 or 2 you could give me?
We can probably give you, Stacy, you start and I'll add, but yes, sir, we can. And we also will tell you we have a published document. Again, the DOE sends out a digest to superintendents, I believe weekly. They can correct me on that. But those avenues of communication are open. We're also sending those frequently asked questions documents out through our other partners. But yes, first question, do we have to hire a coach?
Yeah. And again, we've been working with our DOE partners to put that frequently asked questions together. And the guidance has been, in good faith, as much as we can possibly without diluting our impact in the classroom, we need to have these coaches in place as soon as possible.
Yeah, other kinds of questions we're getting.
Other kinds of questions, again, around the structure, a lot of questions. Because the runway has been so short, what exactly are we going to be doing first day? Like,
Yeah.
what are we going? And so one of the big things that we're trying to talk through with coaches is the first step is going to be to really understand the service that you're going to have to provide and at what level and what dosage that's going to be relative to our unified literacy plans. A lot of questions around unified literacy plans.
Yeah. We're presenting this summer at several of the conferences that our leaders will be attending to train them on those unified plans and set up support structures for them as well.
Committee members, please remember that these literacy coaches have got to be in the classroom 70% of the time,
That's right.
working with students, working with teachers. They can't be hall monitors. They can't be assistant principals. They've got to be in the classroom.
So if I'm a brand new literacy coach and maybe I just came out of the classroom, or maybe I've been a literacy coach in a school before, but there wasn't this level of structure and tiered support, what does that look like the first 45 days of school? What am I doing for 75% of the time? How am I building professional learning? And that's what this training calendar, and this really is just a calendar, that really is what we're trying to throw in place and have to support them, because again, they come back in how many weeks? 4 weeks? Maybe 4 weeks.
And just, I would just add to that, in terms of the structure that's in place, one of the things that we know is going to be critically important, as Fran just talked about, as boots hit the ground and kids are in buildings in July, end of July, 1st of August, part of this support for our school-based coaches is going to be in the form of things like open hours for engagement with their regional coaches, open hours for engagement with Nick Philman at the Department of Education and with me, in order to really kind of in real time support what are the questions that are happening right now, when I need to understand how do I support 50 teachers versus 25 teachers.
Yeah.
How do I really, and one of the things I think is really important that comes out of 1193 is the ability to look at impact within the school and classroom. So how do we really engage our coaches to differentiate between what is support that is needed and how do I engage those teachers? And that's something that's got to happen in real time as they learn how to engage their schools.
There will be more frequently asked questions as we continue with them. Is really what I think Stacy's saying. They're asking us as well.
Great. Well,
Yes, sir.
well, thank you, ladies. Appreciate the effort and what we see going. If you would allow Chairman Hickman and myself to continue to work with y'all on the FAQs so that we can
Absolutely.
help these members understand what's going on in real time there. But thank y'all for your presentation. Let's go to number 2. Hold on, Dr. Barrett. We're going to jump somebody in front of you if you allow us to do that. Chairwoman Petty, didn't I see you here in the back? There we go. Why don't we put you up, and you've got 1 or 2 with you, is that right? Yes. Come on up to the podium, and can we put you up? We'll go, okay. Yeah.
Amy Dinty is doing the presentation.
Amy's going to come up. Come on, Amy, if you would. And Fina, why don't you come with her? It wouldn't hurt. Sit up here and be an active participant. You told me to go there.
Good morning, how are y'all?
Is this okay, or is this, have you need somebody else, Amy? What Chairman's told me is I jumped in front of Jody, and maybe I shouldn't have, so.
You want me to continue, or?
Yeah, no, I'm good for you to
Okay.
continue if
Yeah,
you
okay.
are.
I was just looking at my watch because I'm a rule follower, so, you know.
Well, he is too, and he straightened me out there, but if y'all are seated there, we're gonna let y'all have it. If you would, for the audience and anybody watching, introduce yourselves, both of you, and then we'll turn it over, Amy.
Good morning, I'm Amy Danty. I'm the Director of Literacy at the Georgia Department of Education.
Good morning, I'm Finna Petty, and I'm Chair of the State Board of Education.
Great, it's yours then.
Okay, thank you. So this slide is very much like one of the ones that Dr. Dundor just showed you, and it just really shows a timeline of literacy legislation in Georgia. But I really like to use this slide because I like the visual that we've really built a foundation in Georgia for strong literacy implementation. And so I'm not going to read you all of that small print. I really wanted that to be there for a visual. But at the very top is the latest literacy legislation, House Bill 1193, which is the Georgia Early Literacy Act of 2026. And three of the things that I think are really important in this legislation that continue to support everything that's down there below it is school-based coaches placing that strong system of support directly in our schools that house grades K, 1, 2, or 3. This bill has a strong leadership component with the implementation of regional literacy leadership coaches. And we have a lot of evidence from other states, but we also have evidence from right here in our own state that in districts and in states that have had a strong focus on leadership from the very beginning, that is a trend that means that change happens. And so I'm thrilled that this piece of legislation puts a focus on leadership. And the third thing that I think is really important in this piece of legislation is that first grade readiness. And so there's a lot of talk, and when I go to these nationwide meetings, there's so much talk about third grade retention. But the reality is we know that the earlier we intervene, the better our chance is for getting students reading on grade level by the time they're in third grade. I love the component of first grade readiness in here because it really lets us look at what is developmentally appropriate for our children, and it helps to ensure that we are building that strong foundation from the very beginning. And so I am a real believer that policy is so important. But if we don't get implementation right, that actual practice is what creates the lift. And so if it doesn't ever make it, I always say, to the kidney-shaped table in the classroom, then we haven't really done anything. And so these components, if you will, are all components that have been present since 2023 when House Bill 538 was passed. And so we've already been working hard on professional learning, tiered reading support plans, universal screening, and high-quality instructional materials. Another really important part of this work is Georgia's, we're not calling them the new K-12 ELA standards anymore, we're calling them the now K-12 ELA standards because they've been implemented. Our K-12 ELA standards in Georgia have an entire foundations domain that is devoted to kindergarten through grade 5 that focuses on strong foundations. It's completely aligned to the science of reading and structured literacy. And so it's really making a nice alignment between all of these initiatives. The top three bars are the three things that are new with House Bill 1193. The unified literacy plans in every district that are not waivable are going to go a long ways to making sure that we are fully aligned. And if any of you, I drive a lot, and so I have learned what it feels like when my tires are not aligned on my car. Things feel better when the tires are aligned. Well, things are going to feel better in our schools for our teachers and our boys and girls if we are all aligned towards this work. And those unified literacy plans, I think, are going to go a long ways in helping with that alignment. The school-based literacy coaches add a level of support that we have not seen in Georgia up until now. And so it's very exciting that we've invested in school-based literacy coaches. And of course, the first grade readiness. And so we took apart the legislation and we have determined the things that are part of, that are either Department of Education responsibilities or State Board of Education responsibilities. And I probably didn't get all of them here, but this is a list that shows what those responsibilities are, what the deadline is, and where we are in the process. And so, and I won't go line by line here, but I will just point out a few things. One of our responsibilities was to establish qualifications, responsibilities, and job descriptions for all of the different coaching roles. The deadline for that is August 1st. We have completed that. The legislation informed that greatly. There was a lot of specificity in the legislation around these 3 different coaching roles, and so we've completed that, and I'll show you where you can see that on a slide in a few minutes. The bill also requires that we collaborate with GOES and other agency to develop and agree upon statewide literacy metrics. That requirement was also in House Bill 538. We currently have an agreed upon metric. Of course, things like that can always be revisited. We will have a new round of review for high quality instructional materials that will be done by the Literacy Task Force. Their recommendations will go to the State Board of Education, and that has to be done by March 1st of 2027. We're in the process of adopting that first grade readiness measure and establishing promotion and retention policies. Rulemaking was initiated at the June Board of Education meeting. We've already published our dyslexia handbook. The changes have been incorporated for this year, and you can already find that in Inspire and on our website. We have a system for districts to certify their high-quality instructional materials. That's completed. We have a system for professional learning for K through 3 teachers at no cost. Many of you are very well aware of our close partnership with the Rollins Center and Cox campus at the Atlanta Speech School. We use their structured literacy modules, which are accredited by the International Dyslexia Association, to create the Georgia Literacy Academy, which is completely free to all Georgia teachers. It also comes with coaching resources, facilitation resources, and I say that because it's more than a teacher sitting down at a computer and going through modules. In places where we're doing this right, and that's a lot of places in Georgia, and now we have even more resources to make that happen with our coaches. Teachers are going through those modules, but then they have opportunities in professional learning communities to say, all right, so we watched this module on phonics. What does that mean, though, in my classroom? And how do I bridge that to practice in my classroom? Sometimes that's hard, and that's where sometimes teachers need that coaching support to make that happen. We are always applying technical assistance to our districts and schools. That is really what we believe our mission is at the Department of Education. We are there to provide support to our districts and schools, and so that is always ongoing and in process. And this legislation also requires an annual report by November 1st. Previous pieces of legislation required that same annual report by April 1st. And I realize y'all were in the throes of finishing up the session on April 1st, but we did submit that report on April 1st, and we will do an updated version of that report by November 1st. And so those are some of the key duties and responsibilities for the Department of Education and the State Board of Education that are in legislation. These are the rule changes that I told you about that were initiated at the June State Board of Education meeting. These rules are currently out for public comment, and so I'll just give you a quick little listen of what is in those. So for our testing programs rule, we needed to remove the waiver for GKIDS ELA. When we started universal screening in kindergarten, we allowed districts to waive the ELA portion of GKIDS because they were screening students. But with the first grade readiness requirement, we're going to need the data from that whole GKIDS. So we needed to remove that waiver. Our promotion, placement, and retention rule had to include requirements for grade 1 placement. All of that is very clearly laid out in the legislation. And we also needed to include promotion requirements from grade 1 to grade 2 based on the language in the legislation. And then our Georgia Early Literacy and Dyslexia Rule, we included the revised definition of dyslexia. We included information about unified literacy plans, training and support for teachers, and we also included the information about not using the 3-cueing model for teaching word reading. And so those are currently out for public comment. I would encourage you to take a look at those. You're going to have access to all of these so that you can provide that information.
You got a question?
Okay.
And maybe I just misunderstood, but I thought we have bills that have eliminated 3Qing altogether.
We do. When we were revising that rule, we realized that rule did not specify the 3Qing. We've already included the banning of the 3Qing model for teaching word reading in all of our aligning literacy policies and practices document, and we've widely shared that with our school districts. But we did realize that that was not part of that rule, and so we decided we put that in there this time to clean it up.
Thank you.
Amy, if we can, let us take a couple other questions
Okay.
pop up because it's probably related to your last slide. Number
Okay.
24.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Quick question. You talked about grade placement. How did that change specifically? You said that the rules and guidelines changed for
So-
grade placement, and it's...
Yeah, so this bill requires a first grade readiness assessment. It has been a little bit confusing in the public that maybe this rule made kindergarten mandatory. This law did not make kindergarten mandatory, but of course strongly encouraged it. And so if I'm a parent and I have a child who didn't go to kindergarten, but they are turning 6 by September 1st, I could take my child to my local school district and say, I would like for my child to be placed in the first grade because that is what they can do. Yeah. And so now districts will have to assess that child for first grade readiness. If the child is not ready for first grade, they'll be placed in kindergarten instead of first grade. And so that was one thing. The other thing...
Can the parents, follow up on that, are the parents allowed to either appeal that, or are they allowed to, who makes the final decision? Do the parents have the final decision at the end of the day after you exhaust the appeals? Or is it, we're telling you to go to kindergarten, so they'll have to go to private school for first grade?
Well, parents do have a place in this, and so and yes, there is a lengthy appeals process, and a committee is developed that includes the parent, the school principal, probably the person who administered the first grade readiness assessment, but then if at the end of that appeal process, if the decision is still made that the child is not ready for first grade, then the appeal goes to that local board of education for whatever their appeals processes are.
That helps, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Number 27, then we'll let you move on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in reference to the previous slide. I think the most important word I saw on there was metrics. We're investing billions in education, millions into this literacy effort. I guess you go on, right? If we're not measuring, we're not managing. So what metrics are you looking at so that we know what we're doing is being successful a year from now, 2 years from now, et cetera?
So there are a number of metrics that we look at. The agreed upon metric that was put into place in 2023 is our grade level reading metric, which is based on a Lexile score. And so a Lexile score is based on certain aspects of reading comprehension, and we vocabulary and reading comprehension. And you can I I don't want to get too much into the weeds about this. I'm going to take off my school teacher hat for a minute.
Will we be able to see that Lexile score at a
Yes, it
school
is.
level, county level?
You can, and we have a reading readiness dashboard as part of Georgia Insights. If you just Google Georgia Insights reading readiness, you can see that, and you can see those Lexile levels disaggregated. And so essentially, these Lexile levels are taking the part of the third grade Georgia milestones, and actually all of our other Georgia milestones, ELA assessments, and it is taking the vocabulary and comprehension domains. It separates those out from the language and writing domains. And so that is really a reading metric as opposed to an ELA metric. And so our agreed upon metric is that Lexile. Many of our screeners, our approved screeners, also provide districts with that Lexile measure so that we can use that as leading data rather than lagging data. Of course, we get the Georgia Milestones data at the end of the year, and we really want schools to have a metric that they can be looking at all through the course of the year as we assess children.
So if parents go to Georgia Insights, they'll be able to see at a school level how my school is performing on literacy?
Yes, yes. And more importantly, I think they can see when those Georgia Milestones reports come home, those individual student reports come home, they can see that metric and how their student is doing with that metric and others.
Does that metric change? Will they be able to compare that year over year?
Yes. Now, the expectation changes year to year too. And so there's a Lexile band for third grade, there's a Lexile band for fourth grade,
Okay.
and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Chairman Hilton, good questions. Let's go on because our timeline's going to get short. So,
Okay.
wait a minute. Excuse me. The
Let me just
chairman is.
ask one question, because metrics is a big deal. You're exactly right. If we can't measure it, we can't determine it's right or wrong. Along the same lines, we started universal screeners last fall, I guess it was, 3 times, and we have not seen any kind of results of the screeners. Y'all have any idea when those will come out?
Yes, sir. They're part of that April 1st report that we submitted to the different legislative branches, all of the people that were listed in House Bill 538 and House Bill 307. There is information about that universal screener data in that report.
So does it drill down into the school districts also?
We have that data available. That report is bigger picture, but we do have it available by school districts and by school.
Okay, can I contact you and get?
You sure can.
Okay.
Send it to the chairman.
I'll make a note to reshare.
Send it to all of us. Thank you so much.
All right, let's keep going and remember when the timeline.
Okay. So one of the most asked questions that we've gotten is about the funding for the school-based literacy coaches. Many of you may know that the actual bill says one thing and then the budget bill said something a little bit different, and so there was a lot of confusion about that. And so we developed a frequently asked questions document for our districts and schools that just explains that the funding for school-based literacy coaches is part of the QBE formula. It is eligible for inclusion in training and experience calculations. It's also subject to local fair share. And another thing that we're doing at DOE to track this so that we have good data is we're developing a specific CPI code. That's how districts report different personnel, and so we're developing a specific CPI code that will be based on this is how a person who was hired as a school-based literacy coach as a result of House Bill 1193, that they will be coded with a specific code. And that's going to allow us to give you guys information about how many schools and districts have hired and implemented the school-based coach and those types of things.
Good.
There are other questions on that frequently asked questions document too, but those were the big ones.
Well, thank you for answering that. As we're trying to develop it for them, that's
Sure.
important.
So this is just our literacy coach job descriptions that I told you about. most of these come word for word from the legislation. The legislation is very clear about those job descriptions. I do want to always share with you that we have lots and lots of resources available for helping our folks with implementation. And so we house all of those at Godot Inspire. Educators can log in with a password to Godot Inspire, but all of our literacy and dyslexia pieces are publicly available, and we have over 440 resources in this repository that are available for helping districts and schools implement all of the different pieces of legislation.
That's not a QR code up there, I see, is it?
It is. Is that bad?
Taking them off, Chairman.
All right, we got to go quick.
Okay, I'm going quickly. So Fran and Stacy talked a lot about collaboration. That word collaboration comes up in the legislation over and over again, and it is so important. There are lots more agencies collaborating in this work besides just the 4 that I have listed. I have DOE and GOES and our RESA network and our Professional Standards Commission listed, but there are many, many more. And it is so important that we collaborate to provide support and guidance to ensure that tight alignment between systems, and also to ensure that strong implementation for the folks that are in the middle of this graphic, which are students and teachers. If we don't get this work into the hands of our students and teachers, we will not have been successful, and so that collaboration is really important. We've also developed one other frequently asked questions document that includes a lot of things about the bill. We've already been collaborating on the most asked questions, and we've developed a little piece that's got a section on what families might want to know. It's got a section on what this legislation does not change. And so this might be a helpful piece for y'all as y'all are talking with your constituents. And there's also a link and a QR code for today's slide deck in case you have any questions about or you want to revisit any of this.
Great. I'm going to take 1 or 2 questions that I see, and then we need to make sure we get to the others. Number 7, is that you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I have just one question, because I think on one of the earlier slides, it's my understanding that students are going to be assessed 3 times a year, and I believe that right now that's done on computers. So I wonder, my question is around the format and the structure of the testing moving forward. With literacy coaches in place, are we assuming that there's the combination of the computer assessments and then the kind of in-person assessment, or are we still thinking that classroom time will be devoted to the computer piece?
Well, it depends on which of the 5 approved assessments a district uses. And so several of our assessments are completely computer-based. A couple of our assessments are hybrid, meaning that there is a computer component and there is also a face-to-face component. And one of our assessments that's approved is completely face-to-face, 1 teacher to 1 adult to 1 student. And so it really depends on the model that the local district has selected.
Thank you.
Last one, and we'll move on. Number 19. Who's 19 down there?
Right here, Chairman.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you very much for the
Speak up behind
presentation,
me.
Chairman. No, it's okay. Any assessment or estimation on the number of students, given the fact that we're going to have a readiness component to this, that will basically be students that need to be retained, and what impact that's going to have on an already strained teacher pipeline? I think it's an important measure. Is there some kind of an estimation right now statewide as to how many students that may fall into that category?
I don't have an estimation for that. I do think that it's important to remember that in local school districts do this work anyway. I mean, they're looking at their kindergarten students who have been with them and they're making promotion retention decisions. They also have already been looking at students who come as 6-year-olds and their parents say, we want to be in the first grade. They already have local policies that develop that. What this bill does, though, is it makes it a statewide law, and it allows us the opportunity to put some frameworks in place that might be more alike. But I don't have an estimation of how many students may need to repeat kindergarten.
Okay, Chairwoman, any comment, anything? Thank you for your efforts. I see Superintendent Woods in the room. Thank you for joining right in this and meeting this aggressive timeline and trying to get this work done. So thank you.
We're just here to support everybody and do the best for the Georgia kids.
Great, man. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Barrow, I think if I can get the order correct here, we've got you coming up here now. I'll tell you, as a past superintendent of the year, I know how you can get into the weeds. So stay 30,000 feet for us, Dr. Barrow, if you would, for our members here.
Yes, sir. And I also know that the chairman has the right to change the order of any meeting that he chooses to, so I respect that. Chairman Irwin, Chairman Hickman, thank you for the opportunity. All of our committee members, we appreciate being here with you. I think I know all of you because of a lot of different types of things that we've been working on, but this is something I'm really excited about sharing. I've been in this chair now a year and a half as far as the executive secretary for the Professional Standards Commission. I told our colleague Fran Dundor, I said, Dr. Dundor, when you get in your new chair, you're going to have 2 gears. It's fast and faster, so you just hold on. We're going to go. But our update real quickly on the House Bill 1193, I know all of you have gone to high school. I know most all of you have gone to college, and you have an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, a specialist degree, a doctorate degree. I know that well-educated people have opinions about how schools ought to operate. I understand that and appreciate that. Our goal is to help. Our goal and challenge maybe is to find that common ground that we need to have in order to move the literacy needle forward, and we're going to be able to do that, I think. Let's see. I will go ahead and tell you this because of time. I knew we were going to be brief. We've developed a policy brief for you. I actually sent that out to Senator Hickman and Representative Irwin in the middle of last week. I want you to know that this is here on our webpage. If you'll go to that website address, www.gapsc, you will see this policy brief. And as part of that, we have 6 questions that I thought inquiring minds like senators and representatives might have already. Let me tell you what those are. Where did the Foundation for Reading, Literacy, and Language, or FRIL, standards, where do they come from? How were they developed? How can we be sure that all Georgia teacher preparation programs are fully implementing the standards? How will we know pre-service teachers are learning how to utilize structured literacy grounded in the science of reading? How are school administrators being prepared to lead literacy initiatives? This is the one I'm going to dive into a little bit more, but how are the literacy coaching endorsements being developed, and when will programs begin? Last but certainly not least, when will we be able to see if these efforts are making a difference for our Georgia's children? Those are questions I thought y'all wanted to have answered. If you'll go to this policy brief, you can go through all of it. You will see it there. And that'll save us a little bit of time this morning. Our colleagues have already gone through and given some context with regard to the earlier information with regard to where things started back with House Bill 538. I will share this with you real quick and going quickly. We started with phase 1. That was back in 2023 when the bill was first, House Bill 538 was originally approved. The monitoring and implementation came after that. Of course, we then began and this is when I stepped into the chair, ongoing monitoring of implementation beginning in fall 2025. I actually came on board in January, so we really started working really hard. We knew that we needed to evaluate how we were doing real early on, and we have data to show what our schools of education are doing. The program study curriculum, the candidate assessments, we're looking at that. I'll get into that in the next slide here very quickly. Dyslexia, our colleagues at the DOE have done extensive research on the dyslexia model and what works and what doesn't work, and so we really collaborate well with them, and certainly faculty resources, those high Q quality resources are really important. And then this, let's see, this last piece that I wanted to mention is the literacy compliance reviews. That's going to be something that we're really going to double down on in the Professional Standards Commission, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. If you're looking at how we're performing and how our colleges of education, our educator preparation programs are working, I want you to know that we have a new GACE, or the Georgia Assessment for Certification of Educators, in place. It started in July of last year. As one of the big pieces of that, and folks, I want you to know Georgia is a leader in this regard. We actually have a literacy portion of the GACE. That's really important. The applications of the science of reading, the fundamentals of science of reading, there are two parts to it. The first part is for the early age students from K up through 3, and then from 4 on up through secondary school or high school. One of the things that I do want to mention, we talked about a good bit during the legislative session, is the preparation program effectiveness measures. I work very closely with Vice Chairman Rice and also Chancellor Perdue, and we talked about the Excellent Teacher Preparation Act, and I think we've got some good things going there. A lot of that data, some of it, a good bit of it, was already present, but it was password protected. The only people who could see it was the Ed Prep programs. One of the biggest differences with that bill is that information will be available to anybody who wants to see it. That will probably cause a little discomfort for some and bring joy to others, but it'll be something that we think that will help us grow, and we certainly want to work with our Ed Prep programs. If we're looking at a timeline, you know, I know my colleagues in the General Assembly, they want stuff to happen yesterday, maybe months ago. And the reality is we don't, when this bill is created, and I think it's a great bill, it is a super framework for helping move us forward with literacy in Georgia. I really do. But y'all know the old saying, the devil's in the details. And what we're talking about today is a lot of the details. All of us are working on that. You may not be able to read all of this, but there's a timeline for when all of these bills and all of these activities are supposed to fall into place. We've looked at that. You know, we've started the GACE test. Very small sample size. I wouldn't want anybody to go and start making decisions based on that sample size. There's not enough people who have taken it. These are our teachers who are what we call pre-service teachers, who are currently enrolled in educator prep programs right now in our colleges and universities. But it goes all the way out through 28 and 29. So Representative Hilton, when we talk about specific data points, that's when we'll really know, because we'll have a large enough sample size to really make some good conscious decisions. But we're going to be looking at that data before. We've already started looking at it right now. So I think that's really important for us to recognize. Let's get into the piece that I know y'all are talking about, and our friends from GOES and from the DOE have already mentioned, others probably will too, the new literacy coaching endorsement and the new position for literacy compliance reviews. Folks, this is a much broader approach to impact educators that are already in our schools. Our teachers who are currently in our Ed Prep programs right now, what that GACE does is it tells us that they are ready to step into the classroom. It does not tell us that they are master teachers already, and they're going to need a lot of professional development going forward, particularly in this literacy area. That's why the coach literacy coach position is so important. I know all of you have different backgrounds, but if you look at executive businesses, Deloitte, Chick-fil-A, all of those people encourage their senior management leadership to have executive coaching. That's what our literacy coaches are going to do for our teachers. We're excited about that. This is what we're responsible for as far as establishing the endorsement, approving programs, issuing endorsements to those who fully successfully complete the program. The endorsement rules being developed already. We actually started, I think, back in July, not back in July, several months ago with this. And I will tell you, it's not just Dr. Barrow and his team in a dark room somewhere. We have experts with public and private universities. Our RESA folks are here today. They're at the table. School district representatives, folks from GOES and from the DOE. So it is very, very collaborative. When we look at what we're trying to create, and we are a regulatory agency, so we set up rules and standards, and this is what we expect our folks out in the state to do. So here you'll see that we're hopefully going to pick and select people carefully about who should go into these endorsement programs. I was with a group of superintendents last week at a South Georgia superintendent meeting. We were talking about this very information that the superintendents need to know so that they can begin to move forward. And they asked some questions, and I told them up front, being a former superintendent, don't hire your best buddy's spouse just because she needs a job. You got to have the right people in this chair. Maybe one of the most important hires you make as a principal or as a superintendent. What knowledge should they have when they come to the table? If they're just anxious, yeah, I'd like to be a coach, might not be the one that gets selected. I'm not sure. We'll have to be careful about that. What knowledge they should have to be able to know and to do, to be able to show when they complete the program, and ultimately how they're going to actually be assessed. That's really important. So when we're looking at this and developing the rule, we're looking at certified educators, people who have at least 3 years of experience. I had a question with the superintendents. This is Senator Hickman's bill. I know Representative Ballard worked on this too, but it's the return to work bill. That was a big, important refresher bill. But I was asked, could veteran teachers who had retired, could they come back? And I said the answer is yes, if they have the right skills, if they're prepared. Now, if they have a reading endorsement back in 1980, that's probably not going to be the right endorsement anymore. We've got to get them trained in the science of reading, so we have to be selective, and we talk about that a little bit here in just a second. So the proficiency with the FRILS, the Foundation of Reading, Literacy, and Language Standards, is incredibly important. We're going to really touch base, from 2025. Let's see, I need to go a little bit faster. My finger's not going fast as my mouth is. I'm sorry. So we want to look at the endorsement and what they need to know and do. We want to be able to catch up, and I think I've jumped ahead now. These are the things that we're going to be looking for. When we talk about summative data, y'all know we look at the NAEP, we look at the Georgia milestones. That's the end of year, or what people commonly refer to as the autopsy data. That's the end of the road. But I'm really excited about the screener data that y'all have talked about already. That's going to be really important. That's formative data. That can help be used to inform the school-based plan as they're moving through. And if they have some weaknesses in letter sound recognition or phonemic awareness or being able to comprehend, they will know that and can make that course adjustment while they're in the throes of it, not wait until next year. I think that's really important. The knowledge and skills that will be determined will be assessed, and this is stuff that we're talking about right now. We're building this out. What we call a clinical experience or a residency, much like a medical model. I may be able to pass all my tests in academic preparation schools, but I don't know what to do when I get in the actual operating room. we've got to make sure that our coaches have that level of experience. That's really important. So these standardized assessments are being considered both knowledge-based and performance-based. That's big. The endorsement, folks, I will tell you, this is our agency, in my knowledge, has never really created an endorsement of this type before. It is really unique work. So to use the old expression, we're building the plane as we're flying it. And we're okay with that because we're communicating with y'all, so you know what we're doing and how it's going. So there's a pre-assessment, determine what those pre-assessment skills are, what the coaches should know prior to coming in. The new endorsement rule will help keep us straight going forward. Additional knowledge and skills, again, will be gained, and then the post-assessment. That's after they get through. We'll be able to know and see exactly what they're doing or what they're not doing. I know I see Senator Kemp here. We worked with him last year on a bill with 3Qing. That's out of our rule. I can tell you that. We corrected that more than a year ago.
Dr. Barrow, let us do this for time purposes too. You have a couple of questions, and it might have been back slides.
Okay.
If you can, let us address
Absolutely.
these questions
Trying to
briefly.
get to that finish line, but yes, sir,
I
I'm
know.
happy to stop and answer questions.
Number 24.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Hey, Dr. Barrow, thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here, by the way, unlike
Yes, sir.
some others. But anyway, back a couple slides. And you remind me, I'm sure it was in the bill, what kind of contract are they on actually? Is it a 190, 210, 240 that coaches are on? Because one of the things, looking at this, if they're on a, let's say a 200-day contract, 190, is that enough to prepare for the next year?
I think don't hold me to this, Representative Townsend, but I think the contract, the numbers were built on a 190-day teacher contract. I don't know that for a fact. I can tell you that local districts, if they want to add additional days, they could add 10 more for pre-planning, post-planning, building plans, that kind of stuff, yeah. But that would be out of local funding. Okay. But that may be one of the things that we need to talk more about in next year.
190 is kind of tight for this kind of work.
Yeah, you got to have time to do it, absolutely.
Senator Kemp, are you number 5?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Burrow. Couple questions. Just how long will it take to get this endorsement, and will it be a requirement for coaches going forward that they have this endorsement?
That's a great question, Senator. I've been asking that question myself. We've talked with the authors of the bill and discussed that. I would say this right now. It's our understanding and our intention. We would like to see every coach achieve the endorsement because it shows that you can do what you're supposed to be able to do. Right now, we'll have some people that won't have all of those credentials. Yeah. But we can't wait until all of that is built. We won't really have this done, and I'll show you, it'll be in the timeline here in just a second, but we probably won't have this done completely until December, this coming December. Now, if we can make it go faster, we will, but there's a process that we have to go through. Ultimately, we have to get the endorsement done. We have to bring it back to our commission. They have to give us permission to push it out. It's out for 30 days, public comment, then it comes back to us. If everything is good, we'll meet that December 31st deadline. I'm going to give you my lawyer response. It depends. I'm sorry, Michael, I didn't mean to mess you up there, but it depends, because it depends what they bring to the table in the first place. If they've already checked off a lot of those things and they have that background knowledge, they may be able to go faster. Got it. If they are starting with less, it may take them a little longer. The programs that are built by our Ed Prep partners, either the traditional partner or the non-traditional partner, that will also determine how long it takes as well. So there's multiple factors, and we'll be able to have a better answer to that maybe in a year's time.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator. And remember, timeline, we have a cell phone ban, and I'm proud of this person for abstaining his cell phone, number 27.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We don't call it a ban, we call it cell phone free.
Free, thank you.
You got to sell it. You got to sell it. Real quick, I imagine other states have literacy coach endorsements. Will we recognize that endorsement and put those folks on a fast track?
If it lines up with the standards here in Georgia. We already have agreements with other states, reciprocity agreements, those kinds of things. If they're qualified, absolutely, we would be able to help them get endorsed faster.
Okay, because we got to hire a lot of people real quick.
Yes, sir,
here.
we really do, and that's the booger. And the thing about it is if I hope local districts understand that if the person that they pick, because that was a lot of the questions the superintendents were asking. Should we wait until we find out more about it? And I don't think you guys want us waiting. We need to go now. But if it's not the right person, then they'll be able to make some changes down the road faster, I think.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, timeline?
Yes, sir, I'm almost done.
Okay.
And speaking of, let's see. So that post-assessment, okay, here's the timeline, the rule development timeline. We're there right now. The endorsement rules being worked on as we speak. We look at the formal process with the proposal initiated by the commission, the 30-day public comment I've already mentioned, and then ultimately the commission will vote on that in December. We'll be able to push the rule out if adopted in early January. So you folks will know where we are with that. The program implementation timeline, I know this is going to stretch a little bit longer than you would like, but this is what it takes to be able to do it right. We're having once the rule and the endorsement's created, then the programs, our ed prep programs, they'll pick it up if they want to offer this. My guess is most of them will, but I don't know that for a fact. We will see. It's going to be a lift for them as well. Program applications have to be back to us by 2027, or at least we're requesting that. I know there are a lot of folks that are going to be interested in doing this. We're working with those post-secondary folks already. We'll approve the program once we receive it, and then the program will actually begin officially in 2028. That's down the road a bit. We've got a new reading center at Georgia Southern. We're going to certainly partner with them. We have the DOE that we partner with. We have other agencies and other centers, the Deal Center, all of those folks. We want to bring that best knowledge, best practice together. I would be remiss if I didn't say something about this. I want to thank the General Assembly and the governor for recognizing that we did not have the manpower to do the job that you are asking us to do. We were blessed by having some education-focused specialists that we're being able to hire. Those job descriptions are already built. They're already posted. Our program cycle evaluation period is 7 years. Every 7 years we go in and evaluate. The literacy piece we felt very, very strongly about needed to be done more frequently. We'll be doing that every 4 years. And the bill gives the executive secretary, the PSC, the authority to determine who gets that evaluation first. So if we see people who are struggling and not where they need to be, we'll be able to line those up in the order that they need to be lined up in. We hope to hire these educational specialists no later than September. We want to bring those people in. They'll be helping us develop the rules and regs. Last but not least, I just wanted to end with this. I know we all have our roles and responsibilities, but the bottom line is, what can we do to help our children, our parents, our communities, our school districts? We have a shared purpose here and a shared mission, and that's really the bottom line and what I'm all about. And we're here to help.
Thank you, Dr. Barrett. Great job. It's always a pleasure to work with him. Thank you so much for helping us out.
We're here to serve. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Our next person is Dr. Amy Lingo with Georgia Southern Center for Effective Literacy Instruction and Educator Development. Thank you, Dr. Lingo, for being here.
Good morning, committee.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I'm going to talk to you first about a pilot project that really piloted a coaching model within 2 school districts in southeast Georgia. And then I'm going to talk to you about how that pilot led to the goals and outcomes that we hope to have with the Georgia Southern University Literacy Center. So the Georgia Literacy Impact Initiative was really focused on building educator capacity to improve student reading outcomes in classrooms. And what we were focusing on here is really supporting teachers in how they were using classroom data, including screening data, and how they were applying that and making instructional decisions within classrooms. So this was really focused on how teachers were teaching and the decisions they were making. And we thought, our hypothesis was that if we could go in and coach teachers, then that this would change the way in which they were teaching in their classrooms. And in higher education, we would learn some things about how we should be preparing our pre-service teachers. So the coaching model that we use was really in a hybrid format. So we did provide in-person professional learning for teachers. We provided 1 day in K1 for K1 teachers, 1 day for 2nd and 3rd grade teachers, and 1 day for 4th and 5th grade teachers. We also provided them with we also did a pre-assessment with them, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. And we did a post-assessment and how we really designed the professional learning so that we could address those needs and those gaps that teachers may have. And so that's where, when you see here, we were using those assessments to target the professional learning. And we also utilized student and teacher data to show growth. So our partnerships, we were in Candler County School District. We had 1 elementary school there, Metter Elementary, and then we were district-wide in Toombs County. So that was a total of 66 teachers that participated and a little over 1,700 students. So here was how we evaluated our effectiveness about whether our model would actually work. The teacher measure, so these were all assessments or all measures that we looked at that were focused on the teacher. We did a teacher competency diagnostic across 9 domains of literacy. So the competency isn't just about, does the teacher have knowledge, but it was about, with that knowledge, did the teacher know what to do in the classroom? So we were really looking at the skills and the application of that knowledge within classrooms. We also looked at a self-efficacy survey, and that really just measured how confident the teacher was in delivering evidence-based literacy instruction. And then we also had the teachers audio record themselves so that we could later determine, were they using effective instructional practices in delivering the evidence-based literacy skills that they had. And then the student measures, we used the core phonics assessment. We also collected the screener data from these 2 districts, but we haven't analyzed that yet. So I'm going to talk to you about some research methodology that we use, and I'm going to try not to go super in the weeds, but I am happy to geek out with any of you that if you want to ask me specific questions about that. So here was the pilot process that we used. So we began this in January. So if you have ever worked in a school district, you can imagine we started in January with the days of professional learning, and we concluded at the end of the school year. So you can see here that we did that professional learning, that we did in classroom coaching with those particular teachers, and then we evaluated and helped those teachers make decisions based on the data that they were receiving from students in their classroom and help them apply their next instruction based on that data. And then we evaluated those outcomes. So these are the teacher outcomes that we have. And again, these are some of these, I will tell you if they are statistically significant. So if they are not statistically significant, then we cannot establish a causal relationship. We can just say it was correlated, but more data would be needed, more participants would be needed for us to have that. So the first outcome was that K-3 teacher competency did increase in just about 4 months, okay? So what that tells me is that from pre-assessment to post-assessment, the professional learning that they received in those coaching sessions, that made a difference around that teacher's competency and what that teacher was able to do in the classroom. The other important finding was that the number of proficient teachers that scored 80% or higher, remember there were 9 domains in which we assessed teacher competency in the science of reading. The number of proficient teachers more than doubled from baseline to assessment, from 20.3% of teachers scoring at proficient in baseline to almost half of them scoring at proficient for in the post-assessment. The largest gains occurred within the assessment domain. So that was just what our coaching focused on. Our coaching focused on, if here's what our students are showing us that they can do and what they know, then how do we help the teacher alongside them? How do we sit alongside them and say to them, here's some ideas about what you can do next. So that's a really important point, that we were there supporting those teachers in their classroom practice. And so the second major finding was that the largest gains, in assessment and phonemic awareness, the improvement in comprehensive and morphology were minimal and not statistically significant. Okay, so we did find out some things that maybe were not as effective, but you know what? At least we know now, right? And we can make decisions and we can focus in other areas. But assessment and phonemic awareness were very important and very clear indicators of positive change. Major finding number 3, which I thought this was really interesting, especially since I'm the dean of a college of education. The teacher degree experience and prior training did not significantly, so it wasn't statistically significant, that predicted baseline teacher competency. So whether they had a specialist, whether they tended to demonstrate, although ed specialists did tend to demonstrate higher baseline competency than other degrees. The more experienced teachers yielded higher baseline scores, and we could expect this because you all have done and supported, everyone in this room has supported the professional learning of teachers, especially within the last 5 years around professional learning. So the more experienced teachers yielded higher baseline scores. Though this started to diminish after about the 15-year mark. Prior training. So one of the things about Georgia and about all states is that teachers can experience a variety of professional learning, right? And so the higher volume of prior literacy training was descriptively, not statistically significant, but was descriptively associated with strong baseline performance. Again, we would expect this. The more professional learning, different types of professional learning that a teacher has, the more likely they are to demonstrate that higher competency at baseline. When we started teasing this out, specifically, Orton, Gillingham, and letters trainings were marginally significant predictors of higher baseline competency. Again, this was descriptive only. I can't say that this was causal because the data didn't bear that out, but we do know that it was marginally. So in student outcomes, which is what I'm the most excited about, was that students did demonstrate measurable growth in some foundational reading skills. I've said that the highest growth there was in letter names uppercase and letter names lowercase and some consonant sounds. Students in K-3 demonstrated the most growth. The average number of core phonics skills mastered at the benchmark tier increased statistically significant from pre to post intervention. But this foundational skill expansion was substantially more pronounced in K3 than it was in 4-5. And I think that's because in 4-5, we need to be focused on other components of reading, right? Where there's more, it's more important that we focus on vocabulary. It's more important than we focus on comprehension. So I think this gives us some ideas and some knowledge that we can start thinking about what would 4th and 5th grade professional learning look like to continue to increase reading performance of elementary students. So if we combine these outcomes here, and I know it's going to be difficult to see, but you will have.
Dr. Lingo, let me interrupt just for a second. We got a question. I'm sure it's to a backslide here, but let me hit that briefly and then also know that our time's short too.
Just a quick question, and I apologize if you highlighted it at the beginning. What is the sample size of the number of students that participated and the number of teachers in this pilot?
There were 66 teachers and it's like 1,778 students.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, oh, you're so welcome.
One more, 24.
Okay.
Real quick.
Yes.
Just want to say thank you. This is exciting. This is real research. I appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
Right.
So these combined outcomes, and I think this is what an important component as we think about a coaching model and we think about teacher knowledge and teacher competency, and if that's really going to result in driving student outcomes. There was a moderate positive association between when teachers' competency increased, students also read better.
Oh, yeah.
So your legislation is going to make a huge difference with the right coaching model in classrooms, and you're going to be able to support that teacher then, but it also in years to come. Although these were descriptive, they weren't statistically significant, it was because our sample size and we weren't able to get those numbers, but more to come. So how does all of this lead to an alignment with the Georgia Southern University Literacy Center? What we learned from this pilot is that teacher competency improved when educators received targeted support. That's important. So the professional learning for literacy coaches to provide ongoing data-driven support to educators is critical. So for the coaches to be able to sit beside those teachers and really dive into the assessment of how students are doing and making those decisions is critical. Teacher degrees, experience, and previous training did not reliably predict teacher competency. So we're going to have to help those coaches assess teacher competencies in those classrooms. So what teachers can do is extremely important, and we can support them in doing what's going to move student results. And then students demonstrated significant growth in many foundational literacy skills. And so the demonstration sites at the Georgia Southern University Literacy Center will scale those practices with partner institutions in higher education to improve those student outcomes. And so our 3 buckets, again, our purpose, again, you've heard a lot about collaboration today. I'll echo that again, is to establish a collaborative infrastructure to support evidence-based literacy instruction across Georgia. So we're going to be partnering with 4 other institutions where we can establish demonstration sites where our pre-service teacher candidates are sitting alongside teachers, receiving this coaching so that they know that as a teacher, you're a lifelong learner, you're never going to stop learning, that we're going to be able to provide the professional learning for the literacy coaches and measure educator capabilities.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Lingo. Members, for time purposes, because as you see, we got a stop at 10 o'clock happening in this room. Why don't we go offline with our questions to Dr. Lingo?
Perfect.
But great data, I agree with
Wonderful.
Representative Townsend.
Thank you so much.
Our last one up, Risa, Laurie Allison, are you in the room? There you go. And Julie, y'all come on up, all of y'all, there we go. If you would, we have the RISA directors here to talk about their involvement in what is going on. If you would, all three of you introduce yourself, and then we'll turn the microphone over to you.
Absolutely. Do you want me to go ahead and start? Okay, I'm Dr. Leanne Putman. I'm the director at Metro RISA.
Good morning, I'm Lori. Good morning, I'm Lori Allison from Northeast Georgia RISA.
And I'm Julie Alligood with Middle Georgia RISA.
Chairman and committee members, we're so grateful. It's a joy to be here with you this morning to share a little bit more about what RISAs are doing to support literacy efforts across the state, what we've been doing, and what we will hope to continue to do with this new model. As you know, RISAs were put into Georgia Code 20-2-270 to be specific. We are celebrating 60 years of service this year. The first set of shared services in the state of Georgia happened in 1966, and so we are excited to be able to still be here with you and still be providing services regionally across the state. As you know, all local school systems, the technical college system of Georgia institutions and the university system of Georgia institutions, along with charter schools, are all members of RISAs in their regionally designated area of the map. And I'll forward us here and see if we can get to that map. There we go. And so you'll see there the map of the state and the regions, the way that we are all divided up. But we are excited, again, to be able to serve our districts, our universities, and our technical college system, as well as our charter schools across the state. We are governed by our Board of Control, and our Board of Control are the superintendents and the colleges, university presidents, and members of our charter schools. And so just like a local school board operates, we operate very similarly, where our superintendents and those representatives of the college systems sit on our Board of Control and govern the things that we do. We meet on a monthly basis with those folks and discuss what those needs are that they have and address those in a local way. We are excited about this new model. This work and the new model is something new, perhaps to the state, but this kind of support is not new to us. We've had a wonderful 11-year relationship with GOSA, now GOES, with our Growing Readers program, as Fran and Stacy mentioned earlier. Also, we partnered with our Georgia General Assembly in the last couple of years to provide additional support with Let's Read Georgia and those coaches that were implemented across the state into our schools and districts after we were able to meet with them and identify what those needs are. That's the beauty of ERISA. We're able to think statewide but act locally while meeting the letter of the law, but also going above and beyond to address specific needs that our schools and districts have. And I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague Julie Alligood so she can share a little more information with you about how we've been supporting literacy efforts.
We were super excited several years ago to be tasked with sort of getting that literacy coaching work off the ground in the state of Georgia. House Bill 538 provisioned that for us, and we were tasked to work with three things. We were tasked to get in those classrooms, and model instructional strategies and work there, helping teachers with this new structured literacy work that they were quite frankly, a little bit daunting. That was a little daunting to them. So we did a lot of modeling as provided in the law. We gave a lot of feedback to teachers, to instructional coaches that were in the buildings, and to leaders. We even worked some with paraprofessionals who are in literacy classrooms and are working hand in hand with those teachers, and they really needed some support too. Provided feedback, modeling for them, and of course we ground all that in research-based professional learning around structured literacy and coaching. So we were able to get things kicked off with what ended up being about 118 what we're now calling regional coaches. We've been calling Let's Read Georgia coaches for a while, and as that program sunsets at the end of this year, we're now going back, taking stock of all the gains that we have made. And some of those, of course, began with building some of those relationships with those schools and those districts and getting that going and establishing our credibility to work there. and the trust needed to move forward. So we were excited. One of the beauties, I think, of our work, we had some very structured professional learning that we wanted to make sure we were going in and making sure that we're undergirding those teachers and those coaches and making sure they understood structured literacy and how that is to roll out in the classrooms. But in addition to that, we are always working with our boards of control to determine what those needs are. And as RESAs have had a very small amount of funding for literacy in the past, we were excited to be able to exponentially help these districts. I mean, when they were saying, hey, we've got to have somebody come in here and help with this phonemic awareness component, we were able to really get someone in there to help those teachers and fill those gaps. So we're able to differentiate to the needs of all the districts, because Twiggs County may not be where Houston County is or where Monroe County is. So we really feel like being able to differentiate to the needs of not just the districts and the schools, but right down to the classroom level. So each coach, all 118 coaches, had a coaching plan, a robust, detailed coaching plan. They made this plan in conjunction with the district and the schools that they were working with, and those were, of course, designed based on the needs that had been established in the classroom with the school, student data, and teacher data. So those also paired up nicely and synced with the school improvement plans in the schools. So we felt like we were really working to align that work. So differentiated based on need. Those plans were remitted to our lead coach with Let's Read Georgia, and she followed up with the coaches, with the schools, with the districts to make sure that the work was moving forward and make sure that that was going well. So, numbers, we were able to touch and have 172,025 educator engagements. Coaching sessions, all based on either modeling, professional learning, or providing feedback. And you can see the breakdown there. I won't go through that in the interest of time, but we touched teachers, we touched leaders, we touched instructional coaches, district level leaders, district level coaches, and the list goes on. Moving forward, so that's how we started with 538, and moving forward, we're super excited for 1193 to be a little bit more robust, a little bit more clarity oriented, a little bit more laser focused as we move along. But we were very excited to see lines 98 through 101. The Board of Control of each regional education service agency shall authorize regional literacy coaches and regional leadership literacy coaches to provide literacy coaching support related services to local school systems and other public schools in the RESA service area. That said, we're super excited to be able to continue that differentiated work, not only with the new literacy coaches, but directly with the teachers and the coaches and the leaders in the building. And listed there, bullets, some things that we outlined from this bill to leverage the RESA expertise to be able to help in those literacy classrooms.
Lori, we got about 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you. I'll be quick. I wanted a visual to bring your attention to this, and we absolutely are 100% behind supporting 1193. We are thankful to you for the funding and the opportunity to support our teachers. Our current model, we did say we touched on over 172,000 coaching engagements. And there has been some question that's been recently raised within the last week about what RESA regional coaches' role should be in the future. And what I wanted to show you is that there was a question asked of whether we could work directly with classroom teachers ourselves, if we need to go through a coach at the school level only, or only in the presence of that coach. And so if those parameters had been put in place in the current year that we just finished, we would have only touched 20,000 something engagements. Our thinking was that with the funding that you have put behind this literacy effort, you probably or may not have intended for us to have less teacher interaction. And as a coach's wife, I'll give you an example that I think you can relate to. If you think about your favorite college football team, they have an athletic director, they have a head coach.
the head coach is not supposed to be the only person who is working with the players on that field. There are others that are deputized. They all have the vision and the mission behind what the director and the head coach have said. And we're on board with the vision and mission, and we will absolutely 100% follow the model that's outlined and the way it's outlined based on research. We're asking to be able to do like your best football teams and have coaches for positions. They've got coaches for the line, coaches for quarterbacks, coaches for safeties. We've got the ability to still keep RESA coaches in the forefront doing their work daily.
Good.
The other question that was raised is whether RESA coaches would be allowed to work with schools that have not yet hired their coach. And what I want you to know is that districts are hiring coaches. A district might have 10 elementary schools and have only hired 8 of those positions so far. Perhaps there's not an ability to hire at the moment for 2 of the schools because of the vacancy or void that would leave in the classroom. As we currently understand some suggested plans, we would not be able to serve those schools who might need us the most if they don't have a coach in place. So 100% support the model. We are unified. We are very much ready to go. And the other analogy I'll tell you is compared to the basketball court. We have a lot of players here that have great fundamentals. They don't just have layups and they don't just have the ability to shoot a free throw. We've got 3-point shooters on these RESA regional coach teams. And I'm asking you to please allow, I think your intent is to let us use our talent in the best way possible. And that is what we're asking for you to do. We have a shared commitment. We're committed to working with all of the partners to do it the right way, to honor the work. And we're going to optimize literacy coaching through the coaches that we have. And then this is a great way to maximize the stewardship of the dollars that you've put toward this. So we say we will do everything in 1193 and more.
Great. Thank you, Lori. Very much appreciate the effort out of RESA's, and we'll get that question answered for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. We're adjourned.
Thank y'all. Great meeting.
Thanks, Sean.